All right, the oldest aquarium fish in all the world lives right here in California.
aScience is all about discovery, but sometimes things don't go as planned. Imagine creating something completely new, something that was never supposed to exist. Well, that's exactly what happened when scientists accidentally created a hybrid life form from an unexpected experiment. I couldn't believe this when I first heard about it, and trust me, you won't either. So, let's not waste any time. This discovery will leave you questioning everything we know about life itself. Sturddlefish. Well, you know how sometimes you're just muddling through life, trying to do one thing, and bam, you end up inventing a whole new creature. That's pretty much what happened to a group of Hungarian scientists back in 2019. These folks were working tirelessly to save the endangered Russian sturgeon by getting it to reproduce without the need for a male's fancy DNA dance. They called the process gynogenesis, which sounds a bit like a magic spell, and honestly, it kind of turned out to be one. So, they brought in some American paddlefish to play a part in this magical reproductive ritual. The plan? Use paddlefish sperm to kickstart the development of the sturgeon eggs. The catch? They believed the paddlefish DNA would just buzz around without actually mingling with the sturgeons. Talk about a plot twist. Instead of sticking to the script, the DNA of these two wildly different fish decided to tango, and voila, the world was introduced to the sturddlefish. The American paddlefish and Russian sturgeon haven't hung out on the evolutionary tree for about 184 million years. The paddlefish, with its snazzy long snout, trolls the American rivers sifting for snacks, while the sturgeon, caviar queen of the rivers and lakes across Europe and Asia, struts its stuff in more chilly waters. Both fish are on the endangered species list, thanks to humans being a bit overzealous with fishing and habitat destruction. Now, these sturddlefish hybrids are something out of a biologist's daydream. Some of them strut more of a sturgeon vibe, while others flaunt features from both fish families. The scientists were downright flabbergasted. Turns out, even after millions of years of evolutionary divorce, nature can still surprise us with a family reunion. In the end, about 100 of these surprise sturddlefish were kept swimming in the lab. The scientists, probably feeling a bit like parents watching their kids at a middle school dance, decided not to push their luck by making more. The risk of these hybrids messing up the local ecosystems was too high, and chances were these fish couldn't have babies of their own anyway. Killer bees. Warwick E. Kerr, a Brazilian scientist with a dream to boost honey production, thought he'd struck gold, or rather honey, back in 1956. He had this bright idea to crossbreed African honeybees with their more docile European cousins, hoping the new hybrids would thrive in Brazil's steamy climate. Kerr employed queen excluders to keep the new queen bees literally under wraps. These nifty gadgets are meant to keep queens from venturing out and mingling indiscriminately. Fast forward to October 1957. Enter an overly curious visiting beekeeper who, upon noticing these excluders, decided to give the bees a bit of freedom. You can guess what happened next, right? That's right. 26 swarms of these Africanized bees said, "Thank you very much," and bolted into the Brazilian wilderness. Now, these weren't just any bees. They mixed with the local European honeybees, creating what are now known as Africanized honeybees. These bees were taking over, making a beeline across South America, hitting Central America by 1982 and buzzing into Mexico by 1985. Their expansion was like wildfire, unaided by human hands, earning them notoriety as one of the most successful invasions by any species. Let's talk about their temperament for a second. Africanized honeybees aren't the type you send to a bees-friendly convention. They're about 10 times more defensive than their European counterparts. Disturb their peace, and they don't just get mad, they get even. They'll chase a person for a quarter of a mile if they have to. And since they've been on the loose, they've been linked to around 1,000 human fatalities, not to mention other animals that unfortunately got in their way. Those stung by these bees often find themselves on the receiving end of 10 times more stings than one would expect from the European types. The saga of the Africanized honeybees in the US began in 1985, when they were first spotted in California's San Joaquin Valley. Experts believe these bees stowed away in a shipment from South America. By 1990, they had cozied up in Texas, setting up a permanent shop. Arizona saw a dramatic rise in their numbers. A study showed that by 1997, a whopping 90% of trapped swarms were Africanized, a steep climb from 15% just 3 years prior. Hybrid salamanders. Back in the 1950s, someone had the bright idea to bring barred tiger salamanders into California as fishing bait. These little critters, officially known as Ambystoma tigrinum mavortium, were just supposed to help anglers catch a few more fish. But nature had other plans. Before anyone could say, oops, these imported salamanders started cozying up with the local California tiger salamanders, Ambystoma californiense, leading to a whole new generation of hybrid offspring. Fast forward to 2007, and a team from the University of California, Davis, led by the sharp Benjamin Fitzpatrick and the astute Professor Bradley Schaffer, decided to dig deeper into this interspecies romance. They were curious about how these hybrids were doing in the wild compared to their purebred parents. What they found was frankly quite surprising. Turns out, these hybrid salamanders were not just surviving, but thriving. In the wild, these mixed species salamanders showed better survival rates than both the native and the introduced species. This threw a wrench in the usual belief that hybrids are generally more of a hot mess, genetically speaking. Usually you'd expect purebreds to have the edge, but here were these hybrids, living their best lives, showcasing something akin to what botanists call hybrid vigor, a term more commonly tossed around in discussions about plant hybrids. This salamander saga didn't just end with a quirky twist in survival skills, it stirred up quite a debate among conservationists. The crux of the issue? What to do about the future of the native California tiger salamander. With the hybrids showing some serious moxie, some folks wondered if this was just natural evolution doing its thing. Others fretted over the potential loss of genetic purity in the native populations, worried that these hybrids might just outcompete their purebred cousins. This unexpected turn of events highlights the intricate dance of managing endangered species. It's a complex puzzle where every piece affects the other, and sometimes human intervention mixes up the pieces even more. Conservation isn't just a walk in the park. It's about making tough calls that balance preservation and letting nature take its evolutionary course. So, the next time you hear about salamanders, remember that there's probably more to the story than meets the eye. Clymene dolphin. Let's dive into the oceanic soap opera that unfolded around a pretty special dolphin, the Clymene dolphin, officially stepping onto the science stage in 1846. Our friend John Edward Gray, a British zoologist who probably enjoyed long walks in misty meadows, was the first to describe it. But honestly, it spent a lot of time getting mistaken for its cousins, thanks to its family resemblance to other species. Fast forward to 1981, and researchers like Perrin and Powles finally gave it the spotlight, declaring it a distinct species based on its snazzy physical traits. Hold on to your hats, because the real plot twist didn't come until 2014. A bunch of scientists, including the keen Ana R. Amaral from the University of Lisbon and the intrepid Howard C. Rosenbaum from the Wildlife Conservation Society, played detective with genetic puzzles. They weren't just looking at one or two samples, no, they went all out, analyzing skin samples from 72 dolphins that included our star, the Clymene, and its close relatives, the spinner and striped dolphins. Their mission? To figure out the Clymene dolphin's origin story. By comparing mitochondrial and nuclear DNA, these sleuths discovered something straight out of a daytime TV drama. The Clymene dolphin is a natural hybrid. It's the ocean's version of a love child between the spinner and striped dolphins, showcasing the first confirmed case of hybrid speciation in marine mammals. In the DNA department, the Clymene's mitochondrial DNA was a match for the striped dolphin, while the nuclear DNA shouted spinner dolphin vibes. Howard C. Rosenbaum summed it up with a bit of flair, saying, "Our study represents the first such documented instance of a marine mammal species originating through the hybridization of two other species." This bombshell didn't just make waves for being a juicy piece of scientific gossip. It also cracked open a treasure chest of insights into how marine mammals evolve and hinted at how natural hybridization could be a creative force in biodiversity. Zonky. In 2013, near the charming city of Florence, Italy, an animal rescue center became the birthplace of Ippo, a downright adorable oddity in the world of hybrids. Ippo is what you'd call a zonky. It's the offspring of an Italian Amiata donkey and a Burchell zebra, who, by the way, used to be a circus star before he decided to hop fences and stir up a little romance. This wasn't just any romantic escapade, it was one that defied the odds, considering that donkeys sport 62 chromosomes while zebras pack anywhere between 32 and 46, depending on the species. You'd think nature would say, "Nope, not happening," but here we are. The result? Ippo, a living, breathing showcase of nature's little quirks, complete with the sturdy body of his mom and the flashy stripes of his dad, particularly noticeable on those spiffy legs of his. Now, Ippo isn't just a cute face in the crowd of hybrids, which scientists have dubbed zebroids. No, he's become a valuable case study for researchers delving into the wild world of genetics and evolution. Through Ippo, scientists are teasing apart how traits are passed down in these rare hybrid scenarios. It's like getting a front row seat at nature's genetics lecture. And just when you think you've got it figured out, Ippo comes in with behaviors that are a little bit donkey, a little bit zebra, and a whole lot of mystery. It's like he can't decide whether to be stubborn or just dash away with those strikingly striped legs of his. While Ippo's existence is a bit of a rarity, zonkies aren't unheard of in areas where donkeys and zebras share the same zip code. Methuselah, the world's oldest aquarium fish. Who would have guessed that one of the most fascinating residents of San Francisco's Steinhardt Aquarium is a charming old-timer who swims a little slower these days, but has stories etched into every scale. Meet Methuselah, an Australian lungfish, not any fish in the sea or tank in this case, but the world's oldest living aquarium fish. Methuselah first made her splash into the big city on November 6, 1938. She arrived from Melbourne, Australia, along with a lively bunch of 231 other fish from Australia and Fiji. Even back then, she wasn't exactly a spring chicken, already rocking a mature 7 years under her belt. Through the decades, Methuselah has swum her way into the hearts of aquarium visitors and has become a celebrated old soul of the aquatic world. Fast forward to 2023, and scientists felt it was time to pin down just how many candles Methuselah would blow out on her massive underwater cake. Led by Dr. Ben Main of CSIRO and Dr. David T. Roberts of Seekwater, a team delved into her DNA to calculate her age. They analyzed patterns of DNA methylation in a sample of her fins, which sounded about as complex as trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. But science prevails, and they estimated Methuselah's grand age to be around 93 years, with her potential age ranging between 92 and 101 years. Stretching about 4 feet in length and tipping the scales at around 40 pounds, Methuselah's gender remains a bit of a mystery, although her behavior hints that she might be female. She's quite the gentle soul, known for her mellow vibes and her love for belly and back rubs, not to mention her peculiar taste for fresh figs. I mean, who knew fish had a thing for figs? Before Methuselah claimed the throne, Grandad, another venerable Australian lungfish from Chicago's Shed Aquarium, held the title of the oldest living aquarium fish. Grandad lived a storied life until 2017, reaching the ripe old age of about 109 years. Blood parrot cichlid. Back in the wild and whimsical 1980s, while the world was busy rocking big hair and even bigger shoulder pads, fish breeders in Taiwan were cooking up something unique in their tanks. They weren't any fish breeders. They had a vision to splash the aquarium scene with a new kind of spectacle. Enter the blood parrot cichlid, a hybrid fish that became the talk of the tank for aquarium enthusiasts everywhere. The breeding brainwave that brought us the blood parrot cichlid involved a mashup of the Midas cichlid, Amphilophus citronellus, and the redhead cichlid, Paranitropus synspilus. The goal? To create a fish that wasn't just another fin in the pond. These breeders were after eye-catching colors and a body shape that would make any fish fan do a double take. And oh, did they succeed! The blood parrot cichlid burst onto the scene, flaunting a vibrant orange hue and a body that looked like it swam straight out of a Dr. Seuss book. This wasn't merely a fish. It was a floating piece of modern art that quickly swam its way into the hearts of fish aficionados. But here's the twist in the tale. Creating the blood parrot cichlid wasn't all smooth sailing. The fish came with a set of built-in challenges, courtesy of its hybrid origins. Its most striking feature, a beak-shaped mouth that doesn't fully close, turns feeding time into a bit of a struggle. That's right, this fish's quirky kisser makes munching a cumbersome chore. And the plot thickens. The hybridization didn't just stop at the mouth. It went full Picasso on the fish's anatomy. From a deformed neutral hump to compressed vertebrae, the blood parrot cichlid is a living lesson in the complexities and ethical puzzles of playing Mother Nature. Hybrid iguanas. In 1981, a bunch of scientists hanging out on South Plaza Island in the Galapagos archipelago found these iguanas that were like no other. Hybrid iguanas, the love children of marine iguanas and Galapagos land iguanas. Talk about a surprising match, right? These two species usually keep to themselves, sticking to their own paths and having distinct lifestyles. These hybrid iguanas were sporting the best of both worlds. They had the dark, moody coloration and wicked sharp claws that are all the rage among marine iguanas. These features are perfect for scaling rocky shores and snagging some seaside snacks. At the same time, they were rocking the stylish banded patterns and beefy body build that land iguanas are known for. Now, genetic tests threw up a big thumbs up, confirming these funky iguanas were indeed first-generation offspring. This mixtape of traits had marine iguanas stepping up as the dads and land iguanas taking on the mom roles. The really mind-bending part: these two iguana species split from their last common ancestor around 4.5 million years ago. Despite such a massive time gap and evolving into very different critters, they produced viable offspring here. It's like finding out two people from different planets could actually have a kid together. The peculiar setup of South Plaza Island deserves some of the spotlight here. It's not your average island. Its compact size and the overlapping home turfs of these two iguana species upped the odds of them mixing. Plus, the slight shifts in when and where they breed might have helped spark this rare love story. Zos. The Zo is a creature that springs from a cross between domestic cattle, Bos taurus, and yaks, Bos grunions. For those who might not be familiar, the term Zo specifically refers to the male hybrids of this mix, while the females are called Zomo or Zhom. Now you might wonder why anyone would bother to create such a hybrid. Well, it turns out this isn't just some recent scientific experiment. Instead, it's an age-old practice rooted deeply in the pastoral traditions of high-altitude regions like Tibet, Nepal, and Mongolia. The goal here was pretty straightforward: combine the best traits of both yaks and cattle to produce animals that not only survive, but thrive in the demanding conditions of high elevations. And what do you get? A powerhouse animal that delivers more milk, meat, and muscle. Interestingly, while Zos inherit enhanced strength and productivity from their parent species, there's a catch. The males are usually sterile. That's right, no little Zos running around from them. On the flip side, female Zomos are fertile and can be backcrossed with either yaks or cattle, making them quite valuable in their own right. But here's where it gets sciencey. Recent studies have thrown a spotlight on the genetic underpinnings of these hybrids. A particularly revealing study in 2018 by the Kafkas Universitätsche Veterinärfakultät Dergesi took a deep dive into the whole genome sequencing of the Zo. The researchers weren't just playing around. They found over 33.17 million single nucleotide variations between the Zo and the reference genomes of cattle. And about that sterility issue, it turns out the Y chromosome isn't to blame. Instead, the plot thickens with variations in the autosomal DMC1 locus, which could be the key to why male Zos can't reproduce. This discovery opens up a whole new field of study, suggesting that we might just be scratching the surface of understanding hybrid vigor. Now let's not forget about the EPAS1 gene, which encodes hypoxia-inducible factor II alpha. This little genetic tweak is a big deal because it plays a crucial role in allowing Zos to handle the low oxygen levels at high altitudes like those on the Qinghai Tibetan Plateau. In essence, it's like having built-in superpowers that let them excel where others might falter. In the grand scheme of things, the creation and study of Zos aren't just about getting a better farm animal. They're a perfect example of how traditional knowledge and modern science can mesh together, leading to innovations that support local economies while pushing genetic research's boundaries. Anytime you hear about the Zo again, remember, it's not just a hybrid, it's a high-altitude hero making the most out of its mixed heritage. Liger. If you thought your typical house cat was impressive, get ready for a real twist on the feline saga. A liger is no ordinary cat. It's what you get when a male lion cozies up to a female tiger, and their offspring is one of the largest felines you could ever stumble across. Let's wind the clock back to 1798. French naturalist Étienne Geoffroy Saint-Hilaire, in what must have been a wow moment, even for his time, sketched the first known depiction of a lion-tiger hybrid. Fast forward to 1824, and Windsor, England, is buzzing with the news of 3 liger cubs making their grand entry into the world. G.B. Whittaker, clearly moved by the moment, captured their essence in an engraving the very next year. Now, these early mix-ups weren't the work of mad scientists, but rather the result of lions and tigers simply sharing the same backyard. Jumping ahead to the turn of the 20th century, let's land in Hamburg, Germany, where Karl Hagenbeck, an animal dealer with a knack for the extraordinary, watched as his Tierpark became the cradle of ligers in 1897. He didn't just brag about it in his circle, he made sure zoologist James Cossa Ewart got a piece of the action through letters packed with details and photos. One liger born on May 11, 1897, was particularly striking, stretching over 10 feet in length and tipping the scales at about 467 pounds. Imagine the mashup, lion dad's mane with mom's striping flair, all rolled into one. Fast forward to 1935, when Bloemfontein's Zoological Gardens in South Africa became the proud home of 4 ligers from 2 separate litters. By the time 1953 rolled around, 3 of these magnificent creatures were still showing off their unique blend of lion and tiger traits, with one male liger standing a whopping 45 centimeters taller at the shoulder than your average male lion and weighing a solid 340 kilograms. What do you think about this shocking breakthrough from scientists accidentally creating a new hybrid life form? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If this discovery blew your mind, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more unbelievable science stories, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss an update.